Okay, so we have just a few last things that we're going to mention. One of the switching out that I did last year, I took a Under Armour base layer. This was a 2 level, and I just found that it was actually too warm for me, even at night as a top. Even on the cold nights, for some reason, I just felt clammy in this. So I switched it out to a Patagonia. This is a thermal top, but it's really a light, very light thermal, and but it's still warm, but it doesn't make me feel clammy. Also has a hood on it. So if I want to wear this at night, on the cold nights, I can pull that hood up over my head and keep my head warm. But I've also worn it when I've been out hiking when it's been cold, and it's quite comfortable. Also does a little bit of a windbreak as well. So, and Sam got one of those
I got one too, honey.
Yes.
I got a black one though.
He did. His is black. I had to go with the blue.
I didn't have a red one, that's why I got the black one.
Okay. Leaving behind, we're leaving a lot of stuff behind. I am, that I took last year, so I'm just going to run through that real quick. I had 2 short sleeve shirts that I took with me last year and 2 sports bras. I'm leaving 1 short sleeve shirt back, and I'm leaving a sports bra back. I really cut back on the first aid kit. I have, extra, a lot of Band-Aids, like 10 regular size Band-Aids and 4 big ones and 4 mid-sized ones, and I had all these different kinds of tapes, and I had tubes of antibiotic cream and this and that and so on. I cut way back on that, so because we never used any Band-Aids the whole time on the trip. We used different tapes to tape up a toe that had a blister coming or whatever. But I cut way back on that. We never used bug spray, and I had a can of bug spray with me, never once. There were mosquitoes occasionally, but we both had head nets, and that took care of keeping them off our faces and our heads and necks. And then we, were wearing long sleeves and long pants because the mosquitoes seemed to come out at night, and we were wearing those for warmth anyway, so we never had an issue with that. I had an ear band and a buff, and I just felt like the buff did more things than the ear band, so I'll be leaving the ear band at home. Already talked about leaving my lighter. Sam's going to take his, but I'm going to leave the second lighter. We took I was carrying extra tent stakes, but we discovered that in many places you couldn't use your stakes anyway because you were on rock,
right.
On rock slabs. And so we just did the big rock, little rock, dead man setup, and never had an issue with that. And we've actually tried that with our new tent as well, and it worked fine. So I'm not taking any extra stakes. If we lose one, we can set it up with a dead man setup in that particular spot. Pack liners. We both had a pack liner because our packs that we carried last year were not waterproof. This year ours are waterproof, so we're not taking pack liners. And last year I had a sleeping bag liner that I took, and I used it many nights for warmth more than anything. But this year I'm not going to need it because I have that new quilt that's a 10-degree quilt, and so I'm going to be fine without my pack liner. Sam?
Hello, Knox. I love this little thing. It's a nice little lightweight outdoor chair. The problem is it's a little over 2 pounds in weight, so you wanted to know how I was going to get that battery into my camera gear. This is what I'm leaving behind this year, and I'm going to get a sit pad like Kath has got. Mine's going to be a little bit bigger. I'll actually be able to use it as an additional pad for sleeping at night underneath my thermarest, inflatable thermarest that I have. But this baby, as much as I loved it last year, I'm going to be leaving it at home this year. I don't think I'm going to need it.
Okay, and then some of the things that we're doing differently, not having to do with things so much as
Hiker
just
brain.
hiker brain.
Hiker brain smart. We got smart about how we wanted to strategically approach hiking the trail this year based on our own capabilities and the way that we're going to approach hiking this year. And I think it's going to be good because Kath had some issues with twisted ankle, a sprained ankle, and ended up, we didn't know it at the time, but she ended up with a stress fracture. And so some of these items we're going to talk about here next are going to address where we feel like we were not completely prepared last year, and this year we're much more prepared for the stresses and strains that come with hiking in the Sierra Nevadas.
Right. So the two biggies. The first is we are much more concerned and aware of pack weight and the way a pack fits. Last year my pack did not fit well, and I struggled with it the whole time. Not only did it not fit well, but it was too heavy. I was carrying a pack that was about 38 pounds when you included the water and the food. Now I understand why people talk about base weight, and they always say, well, my base weight is da-da, and that does not include water and food. But hey, when I'm carrying a pack that includes water and food, it weighs X amount of pounds, you know? Right. And so I was at 38 pounds, which was way too much for my body frame. So this year, we got the other packs. We've already talked about those, and we've lost a lot of weight in the things that we have now in the gear. But we've also talked about how we can share the pack weights differently. So this year, Sam is carrying both bear canisters, the big one and the smaller one, and I'm taking the tent and the water filter and some of the lighter weight items that have a little bit more bulk to them in my pack, so that he can then carry the heavier items with the food in his pack. And I think it's going to work out fine.
Yes, just to give you some idea, she said 38 pounds was her hiking weight last year. I doubt very seriously she's going to weigh any more with everything in her pack plus the water, because she's not carrying any food this year. I'm carrying all the food. That she'll be over more than 26, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about 25 pounds.
So 25 pounds. So that's a big, big reduction in weight. And I'm happy for that because of the problems that you had last year. I think you put a lot of stress on your body when you're going up and down, doing those step ups and step downs and those mountain passes and walking on rocks and all the rest of that stuff. It puts a lot of stress on your body. And you just need to make sure you're carrying the appropriate weight for whatever your body frame is.
Right. The second thing is we've adjusted dramatically the miles we're going to do per day. This year we decided we're going to try to average about 8 miles a day. Last year we were at 10, 12, we even did a couple of 14-mile days. And it was just, along with the pack weight, was too much. We just weren't ready for that. And you know, I didn't find that I was enjoying the trail as much as I wanted to when we were rushing through those 12 and 14-mile days, because I tended to have to keep my head down and just felt like I was just kind of on some kind of a treadmill and not being able to look around and enjoy. Plus, we didn't get to campsites early enough to where we were really able to enjoy sitting down and relaxing and cooking our dinner and just, you know, being able to look around. So this year with 8 miles a day or thereabouts, plus some days are going to be even a little bit shorter because we've decided to do our resupplies, 2 of them, on the trail. We're having a packer bring in food to us at the Kearsarge JMT junction, and then we're having another packer bring food in to us at LeConte. So we won't have to hike off, we won't have to worry about, how to get food. It's just going to be a lot more relaxed this year. We are also doing MTR, Muir Trail Ranch, which we did last year, and we loved it. But having those packers come in and bring the food to us is going to be different for us this year, because
Sure.
last year we
Had to go off trail.
we went off trail.
16-mile hike down to Independence and back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, the two things that I'll say about what Kath just said is, number one is what we learned right away last year was you can't have a leisurely morning on the trail and get up and depart camp at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning when you have a schedule, which we had because we had a hard stay date at MTR last year. And we got a little bit behind on that, which is one of the reasons that we ended up having to do these 10, 12, 14-mile days, because we were trying to catch up to the schedule that would get us there into MTR on time. So that was part of the pressure that we got. And like I just said, is we learned you need to get up and be on the trail, at least for the way we're going to be hiking. No later than 8 o'clock in the morning you should be on the trail, because you get about 10 hours, 11 hours worth of sunlight before the sun starts to go down. And that gives you plenty of time, if we're just going to do 8 miles a day, to get on the trail. If we get on by 8, get everything done by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the latest, and then we've got some downtime that we can kind of lounge around our camp, instead of doing what we did last year on more than one occasion, where we would get into camp basically right at sunset, have to set up camp, eat, and then just go right to bed. And some people love doing that. We're not in that group, so we're like we said, we're doing things differently because of the way we like to do things, and because of the way things that happened to us last year and what we learned.
Mm-hmm. We're also going to send a resupply to Reds, and if they have availability for us to stay in their little hotel, we will. But we're not going to make reservations there because, again, we want to have some flexibility in what we're doing. We also this year applied for a permit and got it. Last year we did a walk-up permit because we had applied for permits and we couldn't get what we wanted, so we just did a walk-up, which worked out fine. We got what we wanted. But this year we went ahead and just got the reservation and did that. So that's all set.
And for those of you that subscribe to my channel, or maybe not, I've got a video up on walk-in permits there at the Inyo Eastern Sierra Interagency Center there at Inyo National Forest down in Lone Pine. And it explains all the ins and outs of a walk-in permit. If we hadn't gotten the reserve permit this year, that's exactly what we would have done. We'd have gone back and done the walk-in permit, which I think is probably the easiest way to get on the trail if you're willing to start a little bit off of the JMT, say at Horseshoe Meadows, which where we'll be starting at again this year.
And then the last thing that we are doing is we are taking 3 or 4 days to acclimatize before we start the hike. Last year we spent a week in Mammoth and kind of got used to that altitude, but then we went back to San Francisco and we're down at
For 5 days.
For 5 days, and then took another couple days to get back up. So, this time we're going to acclimatize right there and then head right out. So we're taking 3 days. We're calling it roaming days, and we're just going to hang out around Cottonwood Lakes area and camp and hike around in that area for 3 or 4 days, and then we'll hit the trail. So I think hopefully our hiker brains have helped us out in planning for this year, and we're looking forward to it. And hopefully
this has been helpful to you too. I'm hoping that if you're watching this video, you're getting something out of what we're telling you, especially if you're a little older like Kath and I are. Some of you youngsters out there can do 20 or 25 miles a day, but us old people, we kind of have to take it easy and keep the stress off of our old bones and joints and muscles.
There you go. We will be doing a video in another couple weeks on what we will be taking. So we'll go ahead and show you everything that's in our pack and give you the ultimate verdict on how much my pack weighs with water.
Right. Absolutely.
Happy hiking.
Happy hiking to you.